Hello everybody and welcome to the second story time for this week from Mrs. Williams from Drama Plus. I hope you're all feeling fabulous and the weather has been amazing this week, so I hope you've enjoyed it on your walks. Now I did make a little bit of a mistake on the last story time because I said that we were doing 3 stories about dragons. And I didn't mean dragons, I meant that we were doing 1 story about dragons and then 2 stories about dinosaurs. I know they look slightly similar, but not really. So if you are doing your beautiful picture already of a dragon, that is fantastic. But if you would like to do a picture of a dinosaur or a dragon, dressed up or however you want to do it, that would be fantastic. Okay, today our story is about dinosaurs. And it is called Tyrannosaurus Drip. And I love this because it's really saying about it doesn't matter being different. As long as you've got a good heart, that's all that matters. And it's by Julia Donaldson, who's really, really famous, and also David Roberts. So this is the story for today. It has got some really long dinosaur names in it. So if I go wrong, I will just pretend I'm not, and you can just pretend I'm not. Okay, Tyrannosaurus Drip, and he's very cute. There's a picture of him, very, very cute. Now, across the rushy river, on a hill the other side, lived a mean Tyrannosaurus with a grim and grisly bride. And they shouted, "Up with hunting!" And they shouted, "Up with war!" And they shouted, "Up with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur!" But the 2 Tyrannosauruses, so grisly, mean and grim, couldn't catch the duck-billed dinosaurs because they couldn't swim. And they muttered, "Down with water!" And they muttered, "Down with wet!" And they muttered, "What a shame that bridges aren't invented yet." And look at them, they are not gorgeous, these Tyrannosauruses, and they've got lots of horrible things where they've eaten beautiful animals. So they're a bit naughty. Now, a little Compythagoras, but for short we call him Comp, found a duckbill egg and stole it from a nest beside the swamp. And she swam with it and ran with it and murmured, "Clever me!" And "Won't the baby Comps be thrilled for duck-bill eggs for tea?" So she's thinking that she's taking the egg and they're going to be really pleased with her. But she sees the big scary dinosaurs and she dropped the egg in terror and went running for her life from the mean Tyrannosaurus and his grim and grisly wife. And the duckbill egg went rolling, and at last it came to rest in, of all unlikely places, the Tyrannosaurus nest. There it is, in the Tyrannosaurus nest. Now the mother T had great big jaws and great enormous legs, but her brain was rather little and she couldn't count her eggs. And she sang, "Hatch out my terrors with your scaly little tails and your spiky little toothies and your scary little nails." Out hatched babies 1 and 2, as perfect as could be. But Mother T was horrified by baby number 3, and she grumbled, "He looks weedy." And she grumbled, "He looks weak." And she grumbled, "What long arms, and look, his mouth is like a beak." Strange, isn't it? "He just needs feeding up," said Dad, and gave the babes some meat. The first 2 gulped and guzzled, but the third refused to eat. And he said, "I'm really sorry." And he said, I simply can't, he said. This meat looks horrible. I'd rather eat a plant. A plant? Yelled Mum in horror. And Dad said, get a grip. And his sisters found a name for him, Tyrannosaurus Drip. And they shouted, up with hunting! And they shouted, up with war! And they shouted, up with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur! Poor Tyrannosaurus Drip tried hard to sing along, but the others yelled, you silly Drip, you've got the words all wrong. But he hooted, down with hunting! And he hooted, down with war! And he hooted, down with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur! So completely opposite from his two sisters. He looks very different as well, doesn't he? Drip's sisters soon grew big enough to hunt with Dad and Mum. But they turned on Drip and told him, you're not fierce enough to come. And he cried, they've gone without me. And he cried, alack a day. And he cried, this doesn't feel like home. I'm going to run away. And he does really sad, doesn't he? Poor little chap. Very sad. So he ran off to the river where he saw a lovely sight. A herd of duck-billed dinosaurs all hooting with delight. And they hooted, up with rivers! And they hooted, up with reeds! And they hooted, up with bellyfuls of juicy water reeds! As he stood there on the bank, a sudden urge took hold of him, and he jumped into the water and discovered he could swim. And the duck-bills came to greet him by the rushy river's edge, and they hooted, nice to see you! And they hooted, have some veg! So he's starting to realise where he could belong. And Drip, who was delighted that they hadn't run away, ate bellyfuls of water weeds and played with them all day. Then he gazed into the river and he asked them, who, oh, who is that creature in the water? And they laughed and said, it's you. It's a bit like the Ugly Duckling story, this, isn't it, if you've ever read that. That night the lightning crackled and a storm blew down a tree and it fell across the river and the tees cried out, yippee! And they shouted, up with hunting! And they shouted, up with war! And they shouted, up with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur! Because what did they want earlier in the story? A bridge. Do you remember, Isaac?
I do.
They wanted a bridge, didn't they? Drip's sisters stepped onto the bridge, but then began to frown. For there in front of them stood Drip, who yelled, look out, look down. And they looked into the water, and they each let out a yelp, and one cried, water monsters, and the other simply, help. So what do they see when they look in the water? Themselves. Their mother scolded nonsense, and she joined them on the tree. Then she looked into the water and exclaimed, oh, good gracious me! The three of them stood trembling, and Dad said, get a grip. You're all of you as drippy as Tyrannosaurus Drip. He strode onto the bridge and squawked, I bet there's nothing there. Then he looked into the water and jumped into the air. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And how the duckbills hooted when he landed with a crash. And the tree bridge broke, and 4 Tyrannosauruses went splash. I heard some of you shout that out then, well done. And spluttering and clinging to the branches of the tree, they went whooshing down a waterfall and all the way to sea. And there they are going all the way on their plank, holding on really tightly. And the duckbills hooted happily. They hooted, hip, 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 hooray! For the heroic, one and only Duck-Bill Drip. So now he's the hero, isn't he? So that's a really good story. So if you would like to draw me a picture of a dragon or a dinosaur, that would be lovely. I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Thank you, Isaac, for your filming. Take care. See you soon.
Bye.